and that's the starting point. And if you don't have that as your, your baseline, then you can come up with all kinds of different other things.
I want to highlight what you said about language and using the same words but a different dictionary, right? Because that is what I think can be so confusing for people. That is what was so confusing for me. So when I was in my class at the church that would end up becoming progressive, lots of people already were progressive, I just didn't know it at the time, is they were using language in a double way. That inspiration thing, that hits me right between the eyes, because that was exactly the types of conversations I would have with people where you'd say, do you believe the Bible is divinely inspired? And they'd say, absolutely. And then when you ask for further clarification, whether that's then and there or 2 or 3 months down the road, they say, well, yeah, I mean, it's inspired like an A.W. Tozer book or like a C.S. Lewis book. Right. God uses it to inspire you. So you realize that you're having a conversation, but you're using very different language. I remember the pastor saying that in the Wednesday class that I was in, that was kind of real super exclusive, and we weren't really supposed to talk outside of the class what we were talking about inside, where he was saying he didn't believe Adam and Eve were real people, and he had all of these beliefs. But then when he would preach on Sunday morning, he specifically preached from Genesis and said, people ask me if this story is real. And he said, it's real because I've lived it. Now, what he meant was he had lived the moral tale. And so even somebody else who I had been talking with, because we were like, well, is this okay to believe? Is it not okay? We were trying to wrestle through these things. When he said that, she said, oh, he believes it's real. And she interpreted what he was saying to mean that he was affirming like a literal Adam and Eve or something like that. But that's not at all what he was talking about. So it's like this double use of language, and that can be so tricky for people, can't it?
Yeah, no, that absolutely. I mean, that's just like, if you talk to a Mormon, like Mormons at a surface level will use a lot of the same language. So I didn't think that was necessary back then. And now it's critically important. And so, that's when I became, when you're asking just like, all right, hey, I have different beliefs than, some of these folks, and they knew I had different beliefs at that time as well. And for me, I've shared this with you before. At that time, I then had to make a decision of, I ended up, because at that time I was speaking a lot of different places and everything. And I actually, I canceled, or I pulled out of 3 different events that I was going to be speaking at, and stopped doing events because I'd never wanted someone to possibly think I was endorsing something that was leading to something that I didn't believe is true in the scriptures. I'm not talking about like Moses' baptism. I'm going to think,
right.
Various views of the end times, those things. I'm talking about a fundamental understanding of the scriptures and how we look at them and what is the scriptures. And because that's where it all really comes from, is what is the scriptures? Is it truly Holy Spirit inspired 100% in the originals? And are we looking at it like that? And that's the starting point. And if you don't have that as your baseline, then you can come up with all kinds of different other things. And, and I still have, I can still feel sometimes bad about ever wanting to unintentionally mislead people into ways that would not be, I say gospel centered. So that's for me. I remember I had to say, like, am I choosing, Christ over relationships? It was not an easy little time in that way. And these are, I'm saying we had so much fun together. Like, it was like fun, and they were loving and kind people, and they were friends. So they were smart. All of these things. So, but I realized I believed in a different. I say this, no, not lie. It was a different Jesus in many ways, and so I removed myself from that particular group at that time.